After Jang-boo learns he has a peculiar ability to see things in slow motion, his normal life has changed drastically. He then grows up as an outcast, not until he starts working as a new employee at a CCTV monitoring center. While everyone else is busy attending to their own monitors, Ms. Shim, an employee in the monitoring center, is busy gossiping with another colleague. Then, her monitor shows a guy on a motorcycle who resembles a notorious thief they have been looking for. This offender is known to have a partner, and sure enough, another man approaches the rider. Moments later, they snatch a woman's bag. Ms. Shim immediately alerts their team leader, and he relays information to the other officers about the offender's whereabouts. After following the offenders, the CCTV monitoring center team suddenly loses sight of the two men. But the new employee, Jang-boo, who has the special ability to see things in slow motion, manages to spot the two men's location, which leads to their successful capture. While the team celebrates, Jang-boo remains quiet, making Bong Soo, one of his colleagues, and their team leader stare at him weirdly. During a sports festival at an elementary school, young Jang-boo participated in a relay race, and he ran fast toward Bong Soo-mi, the girl he had to pass on the baton and the one he liked so much. But for unknown reasons, Jang-boo lost his balance, and he was immediately taken to the doctor for a checkup. After running several tests, it was discovered that he had a rare eye condition called dynamic visual acuity, or an illness that allowed him to see fast-moving objects in slow motion. At the same time, it made catching objects thrown at a fast speed easy for him. But he couldn't put this skill to good use because it caused him dizziness, which was why he lost his balance while running and couldn't engage in sports. Then, Dr. Sok, his ophthalmologist, recommended that Jang-boo must wear sunglasses at all times while his condition was still under observation. Eventually, Jang-boo got separated from his father, who decided to work in a faraway place to earn money to have his eye condition cured. Luckily, Jang-boo found a silver lining in his condition, for seeing things from a more detailed perspective had inspired him to take an interest in art and drawing. But mean kids would always make fun of Jang-boo because of his glasses, thinking he had alien eyes. Fortunately, Bong Soo-mi never left his side. They played together, and she became Jang-boo's artistic motivation, making Soo-mi smile with his artwork. But being friends with Jang-boo also made the other kids bully Soo-mi, so she eventually put a distance between them, and Jang-boo lost his only friend. To finally damage his eyes, Jang-boo decided to watch television excessively. Yet, he grew fascinated by watching dramas with cool leading men who taught him how to speak and act in front of others. But these were all useless because he had no one to try them with. In a year, he would only go out twice for his eye checkup with Dr. Sok. He never went out to play with a friend, and no one even visited him. His life became even sadder when he lost his father due to his workplace accident. Now, the only man he knows is Dr. Sok, who is persistent in convincing him to see the outside world. Finally, Jang-boo listens to the doctor's advice and starts working at the CCTV monitoring center. This job makes Jang-boo feel like he is watching an unscripted drama. The only difference is that everyone is the main actor in their lives. While observing different people on the screen, he also notices a little boy who pushes his cart up the hill alone and a man who plays baseball by himself every day. Their loneliness makes him want to approach them, but he is also afraid they will dislike him. One night, while Bong Soo and the team leader are sitting on the bench, the former proudly claims to be Jang-boo's friend despite his weirdness, and he also promises to look after Jang-boo while he works for the company. Curious about Jang-boo, Bong Soo keeps observing and striking a conversation with him, even when he's always ignored. He also notices that Jang-boo has seemed to develop an obsession with counting the steps that people make from one place to another and writing it on the sketches he made of the different streets. One time, Jang-boo finally decides to talk to Bong Soo and asks him where he usually goes, but Bong Soo doesn't answer his question and instead picks up his sketches, looking at them until he asks Jang-boo about his girlfriend. With this question, Jang-boo remembers someone. Then, he leans toward the screen and sees a girl hurriedly walking out of her house gate, causing him to suddenly stand. Later, Jang-boo rides a bike toward the girl's place to see her from afar. The girl is none other than Bong Soo-mi, his childhood love and friend. By listening to Soo-mi's conversation with an unknown guy, who seems to be a debt collector, he learns that Soo-mi is facing financial difficulties. In the CCTV monitoring center, Jang-boo watches Soo-mi wherever she goes and becomes overly attentive to her. So the next morning, he goes to where Soo-mi has been, as it makes him happy looking at the things she saw. Jang-boo meets Baek-gu, the young boy he always sees pulling his cart, and Sang-man, the one who always plays baseball alone, as he pulls a couch in the street. Despite wanting to greet them, he can't convey his thoughts clearly, making them misunderstand his actions. That night, Soo-mi finds the couch near the coffee shop. Completely unaware that it is Jang-boo's doing, she sits there, resting her feet from a tiring walk, and stares happily at the coffee shop. The next day, Soo-mi heads to an audition after working at her part-time job. but with her mature face and limited talent, she is not selected. Meanwhile, in the monitoring center, Jang-boo tries to persuade Byung-soo to accompany him in delivering an umbrella to Soo-mi. With raincoats on, the two brave the rain to make it to Soo-mi's location. But all this effort is wasted when Soo-mi merely walks away when Jang-boo tries to hand her the umbrella because of his weird and creepy behavior. After Jang-boo's failed plan, the two men decide to visit Dr. Sok. After careful consideration, Jang-boo is advised to give flowers to Soo-mi, and that same evening, his mother gives him a haircut. The following day, Soo-mi is late for an audition when the casting director calls to tell her not to go as the audition has already concluded. Desperate to be considered, she starts singing in the middle of the street, impressing those who listen to her, especially Jang-boo. But after realizing there's no response from the director, she stops singing and turns back mindlessly. Fortunately, Jang-boo quickly pulls her hand when a bus almost hits her. After saving her life, Jang-boo hands her the flowers and says it's spring because she's there, making Soo-mi smile for a second. But her mood quickly changes, and she starts being rude to him again. Before Soo-mi walks away, Jang-boo shouts her name to make her remember him. Then, she corrects Jang-boo and says her name is Soo-mi. The next day, Jang-boo's mother wakes him up to prepare for work, but Jang-boo only responds that he will not go, adding that his eyesight will just worsen if he continues working at the monitoring center. Later that day, Jang-boo decides to take a walk when he bumps into Soo-mi. The woman makes him carry her things to her house. However, before she walks inside, she asks him who Bong Soo-mi is, and Jang-boo only responds that he likes her. When Jang-boo comes to work, he immediately tells Byung-soo about quitting his job. But his decision changes immediately as he watches a happy Soo-mi on the screen, and the girl inspires him once again to draw. That night, Soo-mi is eating out to celebrate the success of her audition when she spots Jang-boo. After he hands her a box of ramen, he ends up accompanying her and even helps her practice her lines. When Soo-mi asks Jang-boo to show her his talent, he catches the spoons she throws. The other diners also watch Jang-boo successfully catching the 438th spoon. As Jang-boo continues to watch Soo-mi and go to the places she's been, he notices that many alleys are still not covered by the CCTV. Worried, he starts sketching these places and counting the steps that one needs to take in those alleys. Meanwhile, Byung-soo grows more curious and starts thinking of possible reasons why Jang-boo keeps sketching and counting the steps to travel the streets, but he can't think of any. Soo-mi is on her way home one night when she notices Jang-boo waiting for her. During their walk, she discovers that Jang-boo works in the CCTV monitoring center, where he spends his days watching people go about their daily lives. Then, Soo-mi starts talking about the person who put the couch near the coffee shop. Jang-boo is overjoyed to be acknowledged, thinking Soo-mi now knows it's him. But his happiness is short-lived when Soo-mi confesses she likes the wealthy-looking guy who works at the coffee shop. She gets giddy from thinking that he has a car that can take her anywhere for sightseeing. The next day, Jang-boo can't help but feel bitter and decides to stop pursuing Soo-mi. But when he sees Soo-mi waving her hands at the CCTV, he becomes a hopeless romantic again. He plans to take Soo-mi on a trip, so he asks Byung-soo, the team leader, his mother, and Dr. Sok if they own a car. Meanwhile, Soo-mi has finally decided to resign from her other job at the mini-mart. She walks happily down the street, only for her day to be ruined by the debt collector who keeps following her. When she is unable to give him money again, he starts calling her names and making other offensive remarks. He is about to hit Soo-mi, but Jang-boo and Byung-soo come to her rescue and help her escape from the debt collector. Since the incident, the two have become closer. They begin hanging out, and Jang-boo discovers that Soo-mi wishes to visit the ocean. He starts losing hope because he doesn't know someone with a car until he remembers Sang-man, who drives a bus. Jang-boo sees Sang-man the next day and tries to persuade him to drive them to the ocean by assisting him on the bus all day and even playing catch with him in the evening. However, when Jang-boo asks Sang-man about driving to the ocean, the man refuses. The following day, Soo-mi goes to work, oblivious that Jang-boo is hatching his plan to take her to the ocean. Surprisingly, Sang-man finally agrees with Jang-boo's plan, and with Byung-soo, they casually pick up Soo-mi at a bus stop. Soo-mi has no idea that the bus is heading somewhere else, dozing off during the ride and awakening on an unfamiliar road. She then finds Byung-soo and Jang-boo inside the bus, and they tell her that they're going to the ocean. Byung-soo also tells her she doesn't need to worry about her job because he's already asked Miss Shim to take over for her. But on the way to their destination, they get stopped because the local bus is prohibited from traveling into another district. After a chaotic negotiation with an officer, they return to their town, with Baek-gu complaining about their failed trip. Afterward, Jang-boo helps Baek-gu push his father up the hill and stays with him for a bit. One day, Jang-boo is watching Soo-mi through the CCTV again while their team leader is reporting a kidnapping case. When she suddenly disappears from the CCTV, he hurriedly runs to her location. Despite continuously falling to the ground, he persists while worrying about her safety, only to realize that she is only pulling a prank on him. Seeing Jang-boo's reaction, she asks him if he has feelings for her, even if she's not the Bong Soo-mi in his memories. After Jang-boo confirms his feelings for her, Soo-mi walks closer, removes his sunglasses, puts the scarf around his neck, then kisses him. After Jang-boo and Bong-soo take Soo-mi home, Soo-mi invites them inside for some tea. Wanting to be alone with Soo-mi, Jang-boo tells Bong-soo to go ahead. But when Soo-mi goes upstairs to her house, she sees a wounded debt collector with 3 other men waiting for her. Meanwhile, Jang-boo struggles to climb the stairs with his blurring vision. When the men start to ransack Soo-mi's house, Soo-mi tries to fight, but she can't stand against the men. Jang-boo can't also help her because of his worsening vision. Once the men leave, the two sit on the bench outside, and Soo-mi apologizes for lying about her identity and leaving Jang-boo before. She also admits that she has kept his drawings of her. Sadly, Jang-boo remains silent until he leaves her home. The next day, when Jang-boo sees Dr. Sok for his checkup, he is advised not to run and tire out his eyes again. Concurrently, Soo-mi goes to an ATM to transfer money. It seems like she sold the house to pay for her debts. She also resigns from her part-time job and comes to get her things. In the CCTV monitoring center, Miss Shim notices a suspicious white car. After confirming that it has the same plate number as the car involved in a kidnapping case, she immediately notifies their team leader. They all begin tracking the car, but unfortunately, they lose sight of it. At the same time, Jang-boo grows worried about Soo-mi, who is walking around the area. When she vanishes from the CCTV, Jang-boo leaves despite the team leader's protests and rides a bike to look for her. Worried about Jang-boo's safety, Bong-soo calls Sang-man for help. Soo-mi, on the other hand, walks down the street with her eyes closed, only to be confronted by an unknown man when she opens them again. Jang-boo is persistently searching for Soo-mi when he hits a car's side mirror, causing him to fall to the ground. Bong-soo keeps an eye on him via CCTV until he decides to leave to save Jang-boo. When the team leader gets mad, he chooses Jang-boo, explaining that the young man can't see. At that moment, Soo-mi is being held hostage by the man, who's threatening her with a knife so she would follow him silently. Despite Jang-boo's blurry vision, he eventually locates Soo-mi and the kidnapper and runs in their direction. Soo-mi escapes from the kidnapper and saves Jang-boo when a truck almost hits him. After Jang-boo and Soo-mi ensure that they're both fine, the police arrive and take Soo-mi for her safety. Bong-soo also approaches the blind Jang-boo to console him and help him return to their workplace. Later, Jang-boo's mother rushes to the monitoring center to pick up her son. As they walk back home, he tells his mother not to worry because he has already prepared himself. When Jang-boo learned that his eyesight would soon be gone, he decided to learn and memorize the alley so he could function and walk alone. Eventually, Soo-mi moves out of her house while Jang-boo is stuck in his room. Seasons have changed, and Jang-boo and Soo-mi have lost contact. But one day, Soo-mi tries waving her hand again at the CCTV. She traces her steps back to the couch, and as she sits there, she notices Jang-boo inside the coffee shop. When Jang-boo gets out of the shop, Soo-mi waves at him, but gets surprised to realize that he's now blind. She starts following Jang-boo in silence wherever he goes until she arrives at an art exhibit, where she is the subject of every art piece. Jang-boo, despite not being able to see, has managed to paint the love of his life from memory. One day, as Jang-boo goes for a walk, he suddenly stops, turning around and facing Soo-mi. When he asks Soo-mi where she wants to go next, she is surprised to discover that Jang-boo is aware that she is following him. As for Jang-boo, he says he knows that Soo-mi is around because he can smell flowers that remind him of spring. He then extends his hand, asking for hers, and Soo-mi wastes no time running and gives Jang-boo a tight embrace. The kidnapper, on the night of the incident, had an unfortunate fate. Sang-man used his bus to corner the kidnapper's car, and together with Baek-gu, the kidnapper was held in place. But when the kidnapper took out his knife, Baek-gu called his father for help. His scary father simply yelled at the kidnapper, who immediately felt intimidated. Then, the police arrived and successfully captured the offender.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.